Mike McDaniel's start as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins going back to last year has been very reminiscent of Sean McVay when he took over the Los Angeles Rams, a playoff team that got bounced out early but still made an impact. And then in year two, the offense is popping off. But there's this one play, they ran it a lot last year and they brought it back this year. It's almost guaranteed at least to be 10 yards. We're going to break it down in this video. So the play we are talking about is the seam rail slide. So we're getting a seam from the current number one receiver who is in that nasty split. We're going to get the quick motion outside by the current number two. He's going to run the rail. Then we're going to get the slide coming from that far side Y off position. The single receiver on the backside is just going to get to the second level and cut off the pursuit from this linebacker. And one of the things that I love about this offense and this play in particular is that there are a multitude of ways that you can get to this look through motions and different alignments we're going to see throughout this video. But let's break down the base concept right here. So we've got this quick motion from the number two who's going to become the number one running the rail. And what's fascinating here to me is this quick motion is the first read in the progression. We're already reading the pass and the ball hasn't even been snapped yet. So the first read is how the corner or the flat defender plays this motion. So this corner right here is going to stay flat-footed, which means he's not going to be able to cover the rail. So Tua knows as soon as he gets that ball, he is throwing it up the sideline, and we've got a 20-25 yard gain. So that was week one of the 23 season against the Chargers. This is week two against the Patriots. And after seeing it on film, I guess they decided they were going to have this corner widen out to cover the rail. And that's going to leave a ton of empty grass for the seam. So again, we're just getting eyes on that flat defender. And whichever route he covers, we're going to throw the other one, assuming it's open. Now, everywhere that I've seen talk about this play, talks about it and says that it's an RPO, but I don't see it. I've even heard it from very reputable sources. While it doesn't look like an RPO to me, it does look like something else, and it's very fascinating. So make sure you stick around. We're going to talk about it. But first, we're going to talk about why it's not an RPO. So we've got a couple more clips. We're not really going to break down through the progressions. We're looking more at the offensive line here. So we are 1 yard upfield right here, and nobody's climbing to the linebacker. We're throwing the rail, and the offensive line, the ball's starting right here on the -8, and we are just making this block, and we only get to the -9. The rule for linemen downfield is technically 1 yard for the NFL, but a lot of refs give them the 1 to 3 yard range, so no flags here. So here's another play against the Patriots. They ran it quite often against them, and I really like all the different looks they can give into it as far as personnel groupings. Sometimes it's Tyreek Hill, who's the quick motion man. Sometimes it's Jalen Waddle. Sometimes, like here, it's a tight end. But again, to me, it is not an RPO. Right now, the offensive line is 2 yards upfield. Still nobody climbing to a linebacker. We're just staying 2-on-1 on the defensive line. All right, next clip against the Patriots. Now we're going to get an offensive lineman 3 yards upfield, but look at the breaks that he's putting on to stay at that 3 yard depth. You rarely see offensive linemen pivot that far back just to make sure that they're staying behind the line. Yes, we're getting a crossover from the defensive line, but to see a center put the brakes on like that tells me he did not want to go past that 3rd yard marker. Again, 5th clip, 5th time that either the seam or the rail has been thrown. So I want to take a look at the left guard and right tackle here and just look at their demeanor, and then we're going to compare it to when they actually run the ball and notice some differences. So right here, especially the left guard can show you we're really just getting hands-on and maintaining this block at the line of scrimmage. If we go back, look at his feet. As soon as we get hands-on, they kind of stop. All right, he's maybe just twitching them just a little bit, but he's not sinking his hips so that he can continue to drive out this defensive lineman. He's just trying to hold up this defensive lineman right here. One more play here before we get into the run version of it, and we're going to make just a couple more notes. Again, we can see that the farthest offensive lineman is 2 yards upfield. That's been a theme for all these. I've been highlighting the most upfield offensive linemen. The rest of them we can still tell are at the line of scrimmage. This is just the farthest one, and he's only 2 yards upfield. Again, when I'm thinking about an RPO, I'm thinking that the offensive line is blocking for the run, irrespective of where the pass goes, or if there even is a pass. They are blocking in case the ball gets handed off. And I don't want to see my offensive line at the line of scrimmage blocking for a run play. I want to see them 2, 3, 4 yards downfield, especially 5, 6, or 7 steps into the play. So we're going to see the seam thrown here actually turns into a penalty for a hit on a defenseless receiver, so they get the yards anyway after the incompletion. All right, so I want to notice here the right guard. Now, with most of these, we've been saying that the tackle would be blocking out and they would be kind of comboing to this linebacker, but we have another blocker here that can take care of the outside linebacker. So at the very least, this A combo should be working to the backside linebacker, if not the play side linebacker. Either way, this right guard should absolutely hammer this nose guard, especially with how number 9 has kind of flowed over. So if this is a true run option on the play, the guard needs to hammer this nose guard back to the center and climb for the backside linebacker. That combination plus the tackle being able to turn is going to open up a hole right here in the backside B gap. However, we see the right guard just kind of staying on the nose right here, doesn't hammer him at all. So again, tells me that this is not a true option on the play to run the ball. So let's look at what a run play actually looks like. So this would be 15 Y sift inside zone to the left with the Y sifting across. Again, we got the same quick motion from the wide receiver. The action is the same, but I think that this is a different play call. I do not think that this is the run option on the RPO. Again, we're going to get into it, but you can already notice the offensive line is all 5 of them 5 yards down the field. So this is how we get it blocked up on the inside zone. Again, notice the different demeanor. Now we've got the right guard, and he's blowing up the nose like we just talked about him not doing on the previous play. Look at the different effort there. Notice the left guard getting past that 3-yard mark. The right tackle, if you compare it to that previous clip, I think is showing a lot more strain to finish than he did there. Again, a very different demeanor for the offensive line here. Got another play. This one's from week 3. Last week, the blowout against the Broncos. Again, notice the offensive line down the field. Very same action with the quick motion from the wide receiver, but different demeanor from the offensive line. We've got the guards highlighted here, and we can see that extra strain. Look at those low hats blowing defenders off the ball. That is not something that we saw in the first few clips that were the pass plays, and these are both handed off. I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think this is an RPO. Look at the left tackle doing what we talked about the right guard not doing. He's hammering that defensive lineman over, climbing to that linebacker. There's your hole in the B gap. Last play here before we draw some conclusions. The one thing that I want to note, we get a bad snap right here, so it ruins the play. But look where our offensive lineman is at. He's 4 yards up the field as opposed to 3, and we didn't even get a handoff. So I think that this is a different play call with a very similar structure. I think they're 2 play calls married together that are trying to confuse the defense, which is a thing that McDaniel has done very well since he's taken over. So whenever we were talking about the progression, we've skipped an entire route, and that is the slide route. And I saved it for last intentionally because I think that it's the most fascinating. I actually tweeted about this after I saw this after week 1, thinking that it was triple option. Okay, if it was triple option, like we've kind of talked about, we've got our dive key from Bosa right here, and then blitzing Derwin James is our pitch key. So if we're seeing this, we've got our triple option. Again, the dive key has squeezed. Okay, our pitch key has taken the quarterback. So you throw the pitch route, which is in the new age of triple option RPOs. That's our slide route. And we do it to perfection right here. However, it's not an RPO. The slide route is not the pitch key. It's the 3rd route in the progression, and he's the hot route. and we can see it right here. Yes, Tua has pressure in his face, but the rail is semi-covered. You can maybe make the argument that if Tua didn't have the pressure in his face, that he could have sat it down and avoided the coverage, but the seam is completely covered right here. So that would make the slide the third route, and I think it's a great concept. I love these triangle concepts. I think that they make life easier on a quarterback to get through their progressions quicker. And the slide route not only is the third progression, but it's the hot route. So we're going to be hot when we get two rushers off the edge. If we go back here to the end zone copy, we can see it right here. We do have two rushers off the edge. You can maybe make the argument that Bosa's not, especially with where his eyes are at, but Derwin James is really applying the pressure here, and Tua knows he's going to have this slide route coming. But having a hot route where you're hot off of the second rusher off the edge on a movement play action pass is not unprecedented. We're going to take a look here at a playbook page. This is from the Sean McVay Washington Redskins in 2014. If we look at the break route right here, you can see the coaching point in this little box. It says break. First two rushers outside the tight end leak into the flat as the hot throw. So if there's just one rusher, then the break is expected to pick him up off the edge. But if there's two, we know he can't block it, so he's just going to leak out into the flat, and the quarterback's going to dump it over. And I think that's a very similar concept to what we have here. Now we know that Mike McDaniel is a branch of the Shanahan tree, just like Sean McVay, so he would have this archive to draw back on. And I think we're getting a very similar concept with this slide route. So making some final conclusions, this is a little diagram that I put together of what I think the play call would be. Now, I don't know their actual play call for this seam rail combination. It's most similar to the lightning concept if you want to go look up that playbook, but it's not exactly the same because they aren't both just sitting these routes down. Now, I drew it up out of 11 personnel with solo right chunk formation, but as you can tell, if you go back through the different clips and we kind of talked about it, they can put any of their players in any of these positions based on who they want to get open. So I've talked most of the video about I don't think it's an RPO. So what do I think it is, and why is it so fascinating? I think that this play is very, very hard sell play action. Normally with play action passing, you're thinking we're not going to cross the line of scrimmage, but I think that Mike McDaniel is exploiting the rules of RPOs and how they allow linemen to be 1 to 3 yards downfield, and he's giving them that extra bit of physicality on the line to make it appear that much more like a run play. And then we have the fastest receivers in football running down the field. And then if you bring pressure like we saw, then you've got a tight end open coming across on the slide route, and there's nobody left for him. And the plays that go for the most yards are normally those ones that get dumped off to the tight end on the hot slide route. So if you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more breakdowns of the Shanahan-McVay offense, especially throughout this season. And if you want to read more about the offense, you can find that on my Substack, The Rundown. The link is going to be in the description down below. So while I don't think that the slide route is used as an RPO in this play, I have talked about a play before where you can use the slide route as your pitch key, and you can see that if you click on this next video.